Greetings everyone, and welcome back to another in-depth phone review. In today's one, I'm going to be taking a look at Cubot's second phone in their Hafury lineup, and that's called the V1. The V1 is the cheaper offering, and still comes with the same fashion stuff as the Meet, and if you haven't seen the video on the Hafury Meet, I'll cut up the top for you if you want to check that out first before watching this one. Now, from the review of the Hafury Meet, there were definitely some positives of the phone, but overall it did fall a bit flat in some areas. So how will the cheaper V1 perform? Let's find out today in this usual long rambly review. One band-aid. Just for now though. Big thanks to Cubot for sending me this phone for review. I really do appreciate it. And I hope to be as in-depth as I can with reviewing devices on the channel, and all opinions in this video are my own, and I've not been paid by Cubot or AliExpress to review the Hafury phones. They just send these to me to give my honest take on, and that's what I'm here to do. If you are interested in this item, there is a link down in the description below. It is not an affiliate link, so I won't earn anything if you go there and purchase it or whatever. It's just down there for your convenience, and I'll also link the official Hafury site for the V1, along with the other links as well. And one last disclaimer before I actually start this video, the usual included timestamps are in the description as well as the pinned comment, so you can skip to wherever you need to be. If you're here to just see a certain part of the phone talked about, then feel free to jump to that bit, but if you want to stay and watch the whole entire thing, I appreciate you very much, and I really do hope you enjoy this one. The Hafury V1 is currently available for $129 US from AliExpress with free shipping, and there was an early bird special, but that's since long gone, since the release date was April 15th, but this phone is about 200 Australian dollars roughly. So I'll display the usual currency conversion chart on screen so you can get an idea of how much this is in other parts of the world, which I probably should add more currencies to this list. If there's any other currencies that I should add, let me know. Now I know some of you out there might be saying, hey SMOOREZ, you know those poker phones out there for about $150 Australian? Surely that's a better option than this thing. And while that may be true, there are some gimmicks with this V1 that kind of make it a sure, why not phone, if that makes sense. Because you got the fashion, it's combined with an iPhone Pro Max look, a screen on the back, and fairly stock Android. So keep all that in mind. And $100 less than the Hafury Meet, but you don't get the 120Hz AMOLED and the better Helio G99 processor. Let's take a look at the full specs for the V1 and see what you get for the money. You have three colors to choose from: light blue, black, and pink. I've been sent black for the review. This is also just in the standard package, but you can get a package that adds a Cubot smartwatch for a bit more if that's something you're interested in. The front of the phone is glass and the back is also glass. However, it doesn't have any protection from any of the spec lists that I've checked out online. It just seems to be standard tempered glass. The frame of the phone is plastic, but still feels sturdy enough. No IP rating available for this, so I guess just be a bit careful if you're wanting to watch YouTube videos in the bath. The dimensions of the V1 are 165.8 by 75.8 by 9mm, and the weight of this is 200 grams. The system on chip in this is the MediaTek MT8788V, and is based on a 12nm manufacturing process. This system on chip is basically the same as a MediaTek Helio P60, which is a fairly old chip, but it's still capable enough for a budget-orientated device. And the MT8788V is an octa-core processor with a turbo frequency of 2 GHz, and the GPU in this is a Mali G72 MP3, which is definitely capable for some mid-range gaming. RAM is 8GB of LPDDR4X, however in the listings it shows it to be 16GB, which isn't quite true. Once again, it's a combination of 8GB onboard and then 8GB of additional virtual RAM for multitasking. It uses the internal storage as extra RAM, and as I've expressed in other reviews, this really doesn't help performance at all from my testing. It's just more of a marketing gimmick to make you think it's a lot more RAM than expected, so just keep that in mind. Storage-wise, we have 256GB on board with a microSD card slot, which is great to see, and that also supports up to a 1TB microSD card. The display is a 6.58-inch 1080 by 2408 60Hz IPS LCD with 401 pixels per inch. I can't find the maximum brightness for this display listed in any spec sheets, but it does get fairly bright for the most part, which you'll see in the review. We're not done with screens yet, because on the back we have the 1.41-inch square OLED display that has a resolution of 320 by 360. It's very much reminiscent of a watch display just put on the back of the phone, which some other manufacturers have also done before, and this is called the MiniScreen, and it has some basic functionality, but I will show it all in this review. In the camera department, we have a triple camera setup on the back, which consists of a 64-megapixel main camera, a 2-megapixel macro camera, and a 0.3-megapixel light sensor. None of these cameras have any optical image stabilization. EIS is listed in photos, but doesn't quite help for my testing. There's no 4K recording and no 60fps options on this phone, just 1080p video for the rear camera. There is a 1A LED on the back, which helps during low light scenarios. The front camera is nothing too exciting. It is just a 32-megapixel with fixed focus, offering 720p video with no EIS, but it's decent enough for this. The battery is 4,350 mAh and is bundled with an 18-watt fast charger. We don't get any wireless charging capabilities, but we do have reverse charging support, which is good to see considering this does have a fairly reasonably sized battery. The OS is Android 13, and Cubot hasn't put too much on top of it. It's pretty much about 90% stock. We've got Wi-Fi, Bluetooth 4.2, GPS, NFC, Type-C USB with on-the-go support. There's no headphone jack on this, which is unfortunate. There is plenty of room for one in this phone, but if you want to hook up wired headphones, you'll have to use an adapter, which is not included with this. We've got a side-mounted fingerprint sensor, since we obviously can't have an underscreen one due to the screen being LCD. And as for the sensors, we have proximity, accelerometer, magnetometer, gyroscope, and a light sensor. The phone also has dual loudspeakers, which is honestly cool to see. They aren't stereo speakers though, just two loudspeakers working at the same time, as I've tried stereo effects and that doesn't quite work, but I'll honestly take dual loudspeakers over just one bottom speaker any day of the week. Now we come to the networks. This should support most major networks around the world, which I'll display the band list on screen, which has been taken from the HAFURY V1 listing on AliExpress. We've got 4G, 3G, and 2G, but no 5G on this, which is completely fine for the price. We do have support for 2 SIM cards running at 4G with VoLTE support. The SIM tray is a hybrid design, so if you want to use a micro SD card, that will occupy one of the nano SIM card spaces. If you do consider this phone, just make sure that you check that your country supports the bands listed. I've tried Optus and Telstra on this, and both work fine with this. In the box, we get mostly the same goodies from the HAFURY Meet, including the phone, of course, user guides, a standard looking case, the fancier looking case with the strap, which I won't demonstrate that in this video, but you'll see it soon enough, USB Type-C cable, SIM eject pin, and the 18-watt fast charger. Now that's all of the specifications of the HAFURY V1. And as I said, you get the fashion bit, which isn't my cup of tea, but the rear screen is kind of cool. But going back to the fashion bit though, it still seems like a bit of a gimmick, but if you're into that, then hey, it may be for you. And I will say for around the 160 Australian dollar mark, you can pick up some cheapo poco phones, one being the M5S that has an AMOLED display and a Helio G95, which is fairly good for the price. Then you also have the Poco C65, which has the Helio G85, but a 90Hz LCD. And while those phones are good performers, the MyUI isn't for everyone, whereas the HAFURY V1 comes with pretty much stock Android. I'm sure there's plenty of other budget offerings from other companies, but I personally haven't looked at something this cheap from a manufacturer in a while, so I don't have anything concrete to really compare this to, apart from the HAFURY Meet that I just reviewed. Now, I usually go through the advertising for most of the phones I review on the channel, but honestly, it's mostly just a fashion show for the phone and some bonus marketing thrown in there. So if you want to check that out, feel free to go check out the HAFURY site in the description below and have a read of it all. It is a bit silly. I honestly think it's better to just show you the actual phone itself and properly start this review off. Let me dig into the package and start having a look at this phone because I'm really interested in that tiny little screen on the back. Also, I'm curious to see what accessories come with this as well. It's the same box as the Meet with the pattern on the front there, and it all opens up like that too. You don't have to use these as fashion phones if you don't want. You can use them just how they are. Let's see how fancy this is. Honestly, the unboxing experience is pretty cool with these because look, it just, and once again, the best love for her. It's the same case too. But there's the phone there, which we'll come back to. And we've got the same strap in here. You know, the custom cases looking like that. I can't knock them. They do look pretty cool and pretty. The Type-C cable is probably blue once again. Yes, it is. And it's Type-C to Type-A. And the charger probably is another European one. Yes, it is. And it's also the baby blue, kind of like the Nextbit Robin blue. And this is only 18 watts of fast charging. That's 9 volts at 2 amps. And inside the last bit of packaging, we have the really fancy case there. Also, SIM eject tool, instructions, quick start guide, tempered glass screen protector, and yeah, just the standard case there. Let's now take a look at the actual phone itself. There we go. Not gonna lie, the screen will be cool to test. At the top is the 64 megapixel main camera. Then we've got the 2 megapixel macro, and then the 0.3 megapixel auxiliary lens, or pretty much just a light sensor. LED flash, the screen on the back, which is 1.41 inch and 320 by 360. SIM card configuration there, and all that good stuff. We can take that off, get a better look at the glass back cover, which honestly looks really nice. Of course, it's kind of iPhone looking if the iPhone had an extended camera bump with a screen on it. Going around the device, we have the side-mounted fingerprint sensor. That's also the power button, a volume rocker. At the top, not a whole lot going on there. At the side, just a SIM tray. And at the bottom, we have 2 speaker grills, but there should only just be 1 speaker installed, and our Type-C USB port. On the front of the HAFURY V1, we have more of the specs, which I've already been over before, so I'll take this off. And we already have a screen protector pre-applied. Let's put the cases on here to see what they look like. Probably can't see it, but it's got some glitter going on there, and you put your cards in there and stuff. And of course, you can use the included straps to chuck it over your shoulder if you wanted to. up to you. I'd much prefer the more normal, clear case, like that. And it does lift up ever so slightly above the screen, so if you do drop it face down, you should be okay. But don't drop it face down. Or try not to, you know. Alright, let's power on the V1 and test this thing out. And also see what the tiny screen on the back does. There he is. There's a little Android down there. Does it display anything now? It doesn't display anything at the moment, but just hold on. And we've booted up. It says 3G at the top, which happened on the Meet as well. It does kick into 4G after a while. So in the back, oh, there it is there. Look at it. Ah, there we go. Oh, it's a bit glitchy. Maybe I'm not supposed to have the case on it? Let's come back to that. Let's set it up first. 5 GHz Wi-Fi and the standard Gboard there. The display is looking fairly sharp, but it's not too bright as of yet. But let me just get through setup and I'll get a better look at the display soon. I'm really missing the 120 Hz that was on the HaFury Meet. I'll put my secure pin on this and we'll do fingerprint as well as face unlock. Just use my tiny little real estate. Oh, there we go. So with not a lot of real estate, it's finding it hard to pick it up. All right, taking the case off, does that help? There we go. It would be fine if you had your full thumb exposed, but with that much real estate, it's to be expected. I'll just do the face unlock, center my face, right there. Done. Nice and fast. There we go. We're booted up. Taking a close-up of the display, we have the earpiece at the top there, the front 32 megapixel camera, and I'm not too sure if there's any sensors in there or not, and the display itself looks good, and at maximum brightness, that's actually fairly good for an LCD. That is quite bright. Definitely nothing close to the 120 Hz AMOLED that was on the HaFury Meet. It's weird saying HaFury Meet now. I'm just thinking of Meet, and this should also be completely stock, which it absolutely is. Touch and hold on the main screen, do home settings, and I'll do the drawer mode, so then I can actually go to that. All stock, which is great to see, and swiping down to see the shortcuts. Once again, all of the normal functions that you'd seen here. Still concerning that I've only got 3G. It may take a while to kick in. The torch on the back, fairly bright. That's definitely a fairly bright torch right there. As for the fingerprint, yep. Works every time. Face unlock. Perfect, not a problem. Let me see what I can do with this display. So essentially, it's just a watch display that they've put on the back here. That's stolen off Apple, isn't it? Oh, it's really finicky. Swiping up, no notifications. Swiping down, it's just battery. But what I want to know is, can I use these cameras on that? Yes, I can. That's cool. Why is there a hole there, though? What's that for? I can play music, and that's it? Camera and just music. Hey, it's better than nothing. It's a screen on the back of a phone. That does function. I wonder what else we can do with it though. If I can actually put anything else on there or customize it. We'll have to see. 4G has kicked in with VO LTE as well. So it's all good. Just takes a little while to kick in. Could be different on Vodafone and Optus though. Oh, keepies. I just want to quickly see the wallpapers on the V1 to see if they're the same as the ones on the HaFury Meet, and I don't think they are. I think these are all completely... That's from my phone, isn't it? That is from my phone. I believe it's from my phone anyways. Yeah, you do have a couple of good ones. I do like this one. I think I'll stick with this one, to be honest. At this point, I want to go through settings just to double check everything. So we'll start with network and internet, which pretty much is all the usual stuff here. You do have Wi-Fi calling, hotspot and tethering. Going into mobile networks, VoLTE is definitely on, as we can see at the top, as well as 4G. So I'm going to give this a quick call and test the call quality. I don't even know what the default ringtone is. Oh! I'll splice in the call quality for the HaFury V1. Have a listen to it and see what you think.
Testing the earpiece quality of the HaFury V1. This is what it sounds like with 4G VoLTE, and this is on Telstra, and honestly it sounds pretty good. It might sound a bit muffled to you, but from my testing it sounds fairly good, and any interference you can hear is likely due to my microphone picking up anything. This is nice and loud, fairly good, and not much else to really say here, so let's swap to the microphone and see how that goes. And the microphone quality on the HaFury V1 sounds a little something like this. And during my testing with videos, it is a bit muffled, but during calls it seems to hold up. I mean, it's nothing too spectacular that's on this. It's honestly good enough for this phone. I really don't need to knock it for anything else, so let's move on.
And there you go. That's the call quality from the V1. Top earpiece is pretty clear. and quite loud, and the microphone actually sounds pretty good as well. And just from the ringtone, I can definitely confirm that both the top speaker and bottom speaker work as stereo speakers. So pretty cool to see on a budget phone, I do like that. Moving on to connected devices, we do have NFC and Bluetooth. NFC will work fine, but I just don't have an application on here to test it. But once I tear it down, I'll have a look at the NFC pad and see whereabouts it's located. But otherwise, in connection preferences, you've got printing, Chromebook, QuickShare, and Android Auto as well. Applications, I will quickly go through the system app list just to see if there's anything that might be worth opening up in QuickShortcutMaker. And we do have ad privacy, which is a bit odd. Android S Easter egg is there, but it says 13 next to it. So hopefully this is running 13. I'm pretty sure it is. But I'll just quickly scroll through here just to see if there might be anything, worth opening up later on. MediaTek is there because we definitely have a MediaTek processor in this. Duraspeed, which is usual for MediaTek. Google stuff, IMEI settings there. Might open that, just in case. MiniScreen, which I really want to test that MiniScreen out a little bit more than what I've just already demonstrated. We definitely have to see what else it can do. Do have System UI there as well, voice command, wallpapers, and YouTube Music. So all seeming pretty normal at this point in time, so it's all good. In Smart Assistant, you do have some gestures to quickly open up the camera and stuff. The system navigation is 3-button navigation, which I've set to, but you can have gestures if you want to. Obviously, gestures feel a lot more smoother on a 120Hz display. So on a 60Hz display, it does feel a little bit choppy. So for me, I'll personally just stick with the 3-button navigation, and I'll actually switch it like that, because I'm used to that. More gestures here as well, using 3 fingers to do certain functions. Emergency rescue and screen record if you want to record the screen. Battery, which at this point in time I'm recording after I've done the battery test. So I can let you all know now that the battery in this does hold up quite well. I was pleasantly surprised when I left it for 183 hours. And it dropped from 100% down to 37% with more than 5 days left. Now this was just on standby with Wi-Fi and cellular, but from that test there, that battery held up really well. But I also can say that even with higher usage scenarios with this battery, it does actually hold up quite well. Battery-wise, it performs way better than the HaFury Meet. And I'd say at this point in time, you'd definitely be able to get a decent 2 days battery life out of this. With absolute heavy usage, probably less than a day, and that's absolute maximum usage. But just for general usage, I think you're good for about 2 days on this, which is really, really good to see for a budget phone. Also, 18-watt fast charging is not exactly the fastest. I left it for about 20 minutes and it went from 37% to about 75% or so, which once again isn't the most fastest charging speed, but coming back to this being a budget phone, I'm pretty happy with both the charging speed and battery usage. In storage, we have the 256 gigabytes of internal storage, and I do have my 64 gig micro SD card in, which does appear there. Sounds and vibrations, all the usual stuff there. Beat Plucker was the ringtone for Sim 1. Apart from Flutie Phone, I don't even remember what the default Android ringtones are called half the time. And sound enhancement, best loudness is there, so I'll put that on because I definitely want to see how loud the speakers will get during the speaker test. In display, the brightness level is at 84%, and it is quite bright as you can see. For a budget phone, this LCD is very reasonable. I wish it did have 120Hz, as that would have really benefited this, but as it is for now, it's bright. It's high resolution, colors look good. A lot of things I'm liking about this device so far, but otherwise in display I don't really need to talk about too much in here, so let's move on to Wallpapers, which we've already looked at, which you can customize this to your liking with styles and themed icons and all that sort of stuff. I'm just going to leave it as is. In accessibility, you've got plenty of options here, so if you do require this, it has you covered pretty much in every aspect. In security, I've already tested the face unlock and the fingerprint. All good here as well. Don't need to check anything else. Privacy, location, safety emergency, passwords and accounts, digital wellbeing, Google, I honestly don't really need to open because there's not much that I really need to talk about in there. And also Duraspeed, which is basically just a background app manager. I leave this off for all of the reviews. I've never used Duraspeed, to be honest. Memory expansion is here, which does say 8GB RAM and 8GB ROM. I will do this and let this restart, and we'll check it to see if it does come up with 8+8. And coming back into memory expansion, it does say that it's on. It also says when the storage of the fuselage is sufficient, the storage space can be expanded to the running memory of the same size. If you've seen a lot of my other videos, you'll know that the fuselage is quite a common phrase with cheaper devices. MiniScreen is here, but I'll actually come back to this very soon. In system, language and input, date and time, backup, system update. I'll check for an update to see if there's anything. Cubot did confirm that the HaFury Meet does get Android 14. I'm not sure about this though. Hopefully it does get something, but I can't guarantee it will actually get any security patches or anything. If I know anything more, I'll let you all know. In About Phone, we can see that the run memory is now 8+8, so it is sort of 16 gigs of RAM, but it's not really 16 gigs of RAM. It's 8 gigabytes on board, but the extra 8 gigabytes is the expansion using the storage. As I've said multiple times, I don't notice a difference having this. I think it's just a marketing gimmick to say, hey, look, this thing can have more RAM if it wants to. I'll leave it on for the rest of this review, but I honestly don't think I'll see any difference with performance. And Android 13 right there is the Easter egg. And if I touch and hold, we can change it to all the different little icons and emojis and all that sort of stuff. And look at the colors as well. Once again, I will praise this display. For just being an LCD, it looks really good. The security update on this is 5th of February 2024, and the Google Play System update is 1st of March 2024. It's not quite up to date, but it's close enough. Now let's come back to the mini screen. Here is all of the settings for the mini screen. So I can select the clock plate, as you seen earlier when I was messing around with the display. You can have 5 different wallpapers, and yeah, that's definitely from Apple. I'm pretty sure of it. I don't know if you can set a custom on or not. It doesn't look like it. You've got the screen timeout and go home time. Go home time. Oh, it goes back to the home menu. I got you. With main screen on with main screen. So that's on while I'm using this. Notifications turn on screen. So if you get a notification, that screen will come on to show you notifications, which I guess is kind of handy. If you've just got your phone to the side, you can just see what's going on there. Flip to screen on, subscreen on when turn phone from back to front. Sounds confusing, but I'm pretty sure it means when flipping it, it'll switch on by itself. App select, we can choose different apps to have on there, but we can't add anything else to it. We can have music to open up with it. Select the music app, which I wonder if this would work actually. So music's actually YouTube Music. But if we were to say open up Chrome, now let's go to the back display. And if we open up music, it just opens up Chrome. I thought we could actually display Chrome on this display, if that makes sense. And I don't think we can. So it doesn't look like I can do much else with the screen apart from just playing music and taking photos, which it serves purpose with the photos, but for anything else, it's kind of a bit useless. Back photo size can be up to what I assume is 64 megapixels, and the front camera is 32 megapixels, which I'll come back to the camera very soon. And then you also have help functions to show you how to use the mini screen, but pretty much what I've already shown is as much as you can do is just clock, camera, music, and that's it. You can check the battery status and show you notifications. But when I do the camera test, I'll definitely be using that to see how helpful it will be. Earlier I said, what's that circle doing there? I believe if I take a photo, it'll pop up there and I can open it. There we go. I've worked that out. But yeah, that's pretty much all the mini screen does. It doesn't do too much else. It is pretty much just a watch display on the back of this, but when I tear it down, I'll get a better look at how they've managed to put the AMOLED on the back and all that sort of good stuff. Now, as you've just seen there, it is a little bit laggy, but I don't think it's performance lag. I think it's just, I've been too used to 120 Hertz. So coming back to 60 Hertz on a device, it just kind of feels a little bit slower, but I can say that it is quite snappy for the most part. Everything sort of just, you know, opens up fairly fast. But when I try some more intensive applications, we'll see how performance goes. But for now, it's holding up. So going through the default applications, I'll test Chrome, YouTube, I'll do a speaker test, and anything else we need to do. But pretty much assistant, calculator, calendar, don't need to open. Camera, I will open up because I want to see what's going on here. So autofocus is there. We have video, Ultra HD, which should be the 64 megapixel mode, portrait, which is just the depth effects, and we have beauty mode, night view, and macro as well. So in picture, we have the picture size being 25 megapixels by default, and we do have EIS as well, which is actually good to see. So when I do the camera test, hopefully that kicks in. The macro is just 2 megapixels, but you can have anti-shake on here as well. Don't know how good EIS would be on a macro camera, but you know, so be it. Video on the back camera is 1920 by 1080. Can't do 60 FPS though, which is unfortunate, but it's understandable. However, there's no electronic image stabilization options in video, but hopefully there's some sort of EIS that does work. We'll go to the front camera, which looks a little something like that. The front camera can do only 720p, unfortunately. It's almost $100 less than the Hafuri Meet, so I guess some corners had to be cut in some areas, but I think 720p should be more than enough for it, and anti-shake's also listed on here, which I'm sure is EIS. Maybe it's not, I'm not too sure. And 32 megapixels for the picture size on the front. And also at the top you have HDR and the LED flash. There's no panorama modes or anything. The camera is a bit bare bones, but it should be more than enough. One thing I do quickly want to talk about is the whole macro camera situation. So here's a tiny little Rubik's Cube. Alright, so I have that on my desk there. Let's have it in between there. Now there's actually a digital zoom, which is 2 times. So that's with the main camera, and I can focus on it, and that's what it looks like. Now if I was to go to the macro sensor, it looks pretty much exactly the same. So that's just showing that you can do macro effects with a main camera. I really would have loved to have seen an ultra wide camera on here perhaps instead of a macro, but it is what it is at the end of the day. So let me do the camera test and we'll come back, talk about the photos, see how video performed, and we'll keep testing this phone out. there's Ripley. I'm not sure if he's going to attack anything or not. It's very, very warm today, Rip. What are you looking at? There's nothing there. There could be something. I don't know. Ooh, scary. Alright, well, testing the video quality of the Hafury V1, even though I haven't looked back at the photos, I think they turned out pretty good. And video-wise, we do have autofocus and manual focus, but it's not really looking... I mean, it looks okay. Colors are very, very vibrant, which is good. But see how it's not sort of focusing on the two little flowers there? Or the flower in the flower. But if I zoom in, there you go. Nice white flowers here that I got plenty of good shots of. But yeah, it's all looking pretty good. There we go, that was fast. There we go, a bit more range of color there. So if I'm just walking along, it is a little bit shaky, but it's not as shaky as the Hafury Meat. This is a lot more stabilized. There's the bolts there, looking like bolts. And these two fellas, looking good as usual. And the lemon that's just chilling. These lemons, which you can see all the detail. There we go. Too bad it didn't have a 120Hz AMOLED panel, but hey, this is still looking pretty impressive from my testing. Not perfect, but for a budget phone, like, this is reasonable. And there we go. There's breeze air on the aircon. Or the faraway aircon. So yeah, that's honestly not too bad at all. What kind of bug is this? What bug are you, mate? I don't know what you are. You're very odd looking, and your hearing is dancing. Is it dangerous? I don't know. Alright, I'm outside with the Hafury V1 with the LED flash on, and the LED is super bright, by the way. And this is what night video looks like. And it does focus. And don't worry about people yelling, it's fine. I haven't reviewed the photos back properly, but they're looking fine, but they could be better. It's still kind of decent for what it is, though. There you go. See, look, it does focus. I don't know where these lemons come from. Each time I come out here, there's like 6 more, and I do nothing with them. But yeah, that's this. Go for a bit of a close-up there. You can see all the details. Ripley, it's too late for you to be outside. He's bringing out tomorrow. The only problem that I see is the mini screen not being able to be used for a lot of the camera functions, which I'll talk about soon. Testing video quality for the front camera on the Hafury V1. This is what it looks like. It's a bit shaky, but it's not bad overall though. Like, this looks better than expected. Good, you can see all the aging on my face. So this is pretty good for the camera, picking up all that stuff. It's not blurry, it's quite clear, and it looks smooth, and I can zoom in. See, 2 times. I think the selfie and the main camera are pretty reasonable for this phone. I have to look back over the photos, but I think this is pretty good. We're back. You've just seen all the photos and videos that I took with the Hafury V1. I've got to say, I was initially impressed while doing the camera test, because when I had the camera app open and was taking photos, everything looked really sharp, plenty of colors and stuff. So from that, I was thinking all the photos and videos looked excellent. While I did get some good shots, some of them did lack in a few areas. Like, this is the Frogger group with the V1, just in standard 25 megapixel mode. And then here's the Lemon Tree in standard 25 megapixel mode. And then here's the fellas. You can see all the detail and stuff. So some of the photos are good, and then some are just really inconsistent. More so in videos. The video department with the main camera was a bit of a letdown. It looked really sharp on this display and super smooth, but when I looked back at the footage, it's fairly average for what it is, but it's okay for a budget phone. One good thing about this that beats the Hafury Meat is when you do take an Ultra HD photo, which they also turned out inconsistent at times, quality-wise, you just press it, it does a little bit of processing, done. That's it. Whereas the Hafury Meat sometimes took up to 10 seconds to process the 100 megapixel photo. In regards to the software as well, I had no issues with the software. Everything pretty much works as it should. But as I said, it's just a few inconsistencies with the main camera that make it just on the acceptable level for this type of phone anyways. The LED on it is super bright, so that definitely helped in night mode. And night view itself did try and work. It's nothing like night mode on flagship phones, but it tries. I did photos with anti-shake on and anti-shake off, and honestly, even with me being as steady as possible, some photos I took just ended up a bit blurry. So it doesn't look like there's any electronic image stabilization for photos on this, which is a bit disappointing. And finally, with the rear cameras as well, is that portrait mode didn't really work with portrait mode. If I just took photos with the main camera and sort of, done it at a bit of an angle, I get the blurred effects in the background. And even doing this deficiency thing didn't really help either. But all up for the rear cameras, acceptable. for this type of phone. The front camera, on the other hand, while only doing 720p video, it's good enough. It's fine. I've got to see this as a $200 phone that's in front of me. And honestly, what Cubot has put on here is more than enough for, you know, a budget phone like this. With the HaFury Meet, it was a bit different because that was more of a higher tier budget phone, and the camera's just really lacked in that. Whereas this, I can accept the quality of the photos that I've got from my camera test. That's pretty much all I want to talk about with the cameras. Next, I want to talk about performance. I have noticed that ever since installing my applications and testing this out for a few days, it's become a little bit laggier. It's not that much more noticeable, but just things are a little bit sort of chuggy. Don't get me wrong, performance is still holding up fine, but like, you can just see that lag in between swapping to different applications and all that. So I will have to see when I open Geekbench what this processor comes close to. Before we continue on, I'm not quite finished with photos and videos. It's more to do with this mini screen. I was under the assumption that using the camera on this, I'd be able to do all functions. I cannot. I can only use this to take photos with the back camera and the front camera. That's it. Which, it's super strange taking photos with the front camera on the back. It's really odd, but anyways. Yeah, can't use the LED flash and I can't do video mode. I tried to hold down the shutter icon to try and kick it into video, but no, nothing. That's a bit of a letdown there, but maybe Cubot might be able to do some sort of a software update where they include that, or unless I'm missing something, but I cannot work out walking around doing video with the mini screen. It's just only photos and that's it. It is also a bit choppy using the mini screen. It's a gimmick and it works for just taking photos with the rear camera to get better quality out of a selfie, and it's good for notifications and stuff. Ultimately though, during my review, I've rarely touched the mini screen, to be fairly honest. So yes, it is a gimmick that can be useful, but those useful functions are very, very minimal. Enough of me rambling about updates. Let's keep testing the default applications like Chrome, YouTube, testing the speakers and stuff. So I think we'll go straight into Chrome. Here we go. There is the Cubot HaFury V1 if we go into GSM Arena. Nice and fast. I've already went onto Chrome a number of times during my testing of this device and it hasn't let me down. It's been smooth and everything pretty much opens up nice and fast. There we go. So I'd say scrolling on social media should be perfectly fine with this, and the battery will also hold up fairly well. Granted, it's a budget phone and it may not be perfect, but from what I've tested, more than enough. I've installed device info hardware, Genshin Impact, San Andreas, QuickShortcutMaker, CPU system info, so we can check all that soon. Through the default applications, there's not a whole lot here that we need to check. So clock contacts, drive, files is the usual file manager, find device, Gmail, Google TV, keep notes, maps, which once again, I opened up maps outside, done a GPS test, no problems. I don't know really how much more I can say about GPS, to be honest. All I can really say is it picked up my location fairly quickly. If there's anything else you want to know about GPS with these devices, feel free to let me know. As I said, all I can say is pretty much it works. Google Meet, messages, phone, photos, Play Store. Don't really need to go into the Play Store because I've already done that. Safety, SIM toolkit, sound recorder, still looking like the Android 4 one. Yes, certainly is. Also, you probably can notice as well, the screen protector is quite scratched because I've had this in and out of my pocket, and you can definitely see how much usage this phone has got because I've been constantly cleaning the screen and accidentally scratching it. But it's held up though. At least the screen protector is pre-applied for you. All right, we've got YouTube and YouTube Music for the speaker test. So I think we'll go straight onto YouTube. Once again, during testing, I was browsing on YouTube and watching a couple of videos and everything loaded fairly fast. 1080p is about as best as you're going to get with this, but I'll go ahead and open up Costa Rica in 4K and see how fast it is. And we'll see how 1080p 60fps goes. Because remember, on the HaFury Meet, 1080p 60fps HDR lagged on this. But I can tell you that 1080p at 60fps looks really good and looks a little something like this. Perfect. The colors look nice and vibrant, and if I just zoom in, still holds 60 FPS. There we go. So all these little bugs. I've never realized, but those bugs are carrying leaves, but okay. Yep, Froggo there. That color is just, it's great for this display. It's no OLED, but it's fairly good for what it is. And if I bump the volume up, listen to that. Why couldn't they have done stereo speakers on the HaFury Mate? I have no idea, but the speakers are sounding really good on this. As you just seen, YouTube's perfectly fine. So no dramas with watching YouTube videos on this at 1080p 60 FPS. Speaker test though. I've already kind of done the speaker test while playing around with this phone off camera. And yeah, I'm thoroughly impressed with them. And don't get me wrong, I'm not putting this on flagship level stereo speakers. It's probably just a cheap earpiece at the top and the bottom speaker. They pump out a decent amount of volume and they sound good. So here you go. This is what BFG Division sounds like. See how loud it is? But let's go along a little bit. Look at this. Where's the speaker? Okay, it sounds a bit flat now. It sounded a little bit flat with BFG Division though. So what if I go to sound and vibration and turn best loudness off? It actually helped. There we go. That's much more acceptable. But it's nice and loud. At full volume, it does get a little bit lost. But if you just turn the volume down a little bit, it sounds good. We've got 2 speakers going in this thing. It's not hard for manufacturers to enable the earpiece as a secondary speaker. Let me try my terrible song that I made, and we'll see what it sounds like on this one. Yeah, that's pretty good, man. Yeah, that's good. It gets a little bit muffled at the absolute highest volume, bumping it down ever so slightly. Plenty of punch, the bass is there. I'm happy with it. I'll be absolutely honest. It beats the HaFury Mate speakers because you only had that one loudspeaker. And while that was decent enough, I much prefer that extra kick from the top earpiece gives it a bit more. And while it's not stereo speakers, it's just 2 speakers that are in the phone. It's still much better to have that than just one bottom firing speaker. So with that, let's move on because I want to do the Geekbench test. Compare it with the HaFury Mate and see how close they are performance-wise. Even though these are just numbers at the end of the day, it gives me a good idea of what the performance is going to be like for gaming and stuff. So I'll run the benchmark and this shouldn't take too long. So we'll be back in a moment. So we got 299 for single and 1349 for the multi-core score. So I'll display some other specs to the side of the device, which the HaFury Mate got 545 for the single and 1819 for multi. So there is a bit of a hit in the performance department there, which is to be expected. I wasn't expecting to see the same numbers from the HaFury Mate, but I can put the performance of this phone close to the Helio P60, which was featured in the Unihertz Titan, which got 299 for single, same as this, but the multi was slightly higher at 1455. So in other words, this is pretty much a Helio P60 in this, which is sort of a mid-range budget processor, if that makes sense. Not a powerhouse, but more than enough for the price of this. Also during Geekbench, it did get a little bit warm here, but nothing too concerning. With Geekbench done, I'm going to show you some gaming on this. I've got San Andreas and Genshin Impact. So I'll start with San Andreas first. And there we go. San Andreas. No problem on this. Of course it would be fine. Not that you can see it though. There you go, that's better. It looks nice and it runs nice. I mean, San Andreas is an old game, but for the last few phones that I've shown, it's really struggled. Ah, don't hit me. Damn it. Alright, let's get in the car and go super fast. Oh, bit laggy there though. Some frame dips there. But this is all on the absolute maximum settings though, but it still looks nice and it runs nice for the most part. Oh, did you see that? That was pretty epic. Let me show you Genshin Impact on this, and we'll push it to its absolute limits and see what it's like. I don't think I've really mentioned this during the review, but the bezel sizes on this are a bit big. To be expected, I guess. The Hafury Meat looked a lot better, as that had minimal bezels, but this has got a bit of a chin, and the bezel at the top with the teardrop notch. Quite noticeable, but I'm going to say it again, it's a budget phone. And it's downloading a 10 gig update for Genshin Impact. So that took about 10 minutes to download the latest Genshin Impact update, and the whole phone is quite warm, and I'm pretty sure the battery life took a hit. Yeah, it's at 69% now. This downloading screen has been a great way to drain battery life on any phone that I've tested, because of the infinite scrolling screen, downloading and all that sort of stuff. It just kind of pushes the phone to its limits. Let's just wait for this, try Genshin on the default settings, and then we'll bump it up and then see how it goes there. Another thing that's been happening as well is if I'm holding the phone like so, and my fingers are touching against the back screen, it vibrates, and then you can go ahead and control it. So you can switch this off if you want to. It's just a little thing that I've noticed because I've got the screen on most of the time, which also could be draining the battery a bit faster, having that main screen on for 99% of the time. Finally done. Don't know why I had to download a 10 gig update when it was working beforehand, but sure thing, Genshin. Alright, so here it is at nighttime. First time I'm playing Genshin at nighttime, actually. It does look pretty low quality there. I'll bump up the brightness. I would say that's probably at the absolute lowest settings. I don't even know how I got to this town place thing. I don't remember doing it. Alright, let me go to graphics. And it is all at the lowest, so I'm going to put it to highest. And we'll just see how it looks now. Ooh. Oh. Okay, bit chuggy now. Even though I haven't restarted it to get all of the high settings to kick in, that gives you an idea that it's not going to be the best at the absolute high settings. Higher end games on this won't be too good, but lower end games, as I said, would be perfectly fine. Like, this is at medium, and that's more than reasonable. Could I play Genshin with this? I'd most likely just have it to the lower settings and be done with it, but like, this is pretty good. At medium settings, there are some frame dips happening quite a lot. You'd have to play around with the settings in this to get an optimal experience, but from the test with San Andreas, that gives me an idea that less demanding games will be fine on this, but the more demanding ones will push this thing to its limits. So with that, I think that's the gaming test done. That's given me a good idea on how this phone is performing. I want to just quickly double check the specs, see what's going on with this. In device info hardware, everything's listed here. Hafury V1, system on chip, MT8788, octa-core processor with the Mali G72 MP3. The system, all listed there. Screen is 2408 by 1080, and it should be 10-point multi-touch. Certainly is. 60 Hz as well, which we've already established that. Memory, 8 gig, and the 256 gigabytes on board storage. Cameras, we've got the codes just up there. Got 64 megapixels, 32 megapixel for the front camera, and the back says 2 megapixels plus 2 megapixels, which is interesting because it's only supposed to be a 0.3 megapixel auxiliary sensor. So when I tear that down, I'll get a better look at it. Battery is all correct there, and in sensors, accelerometer, light sensor, proximity, magnetometer, and gyroscope. So let me open the other one real quickly, just to make sure of everything, but all correct. Hafury V1, MT8788, memory's all good, RAM's all good, screen isn't quite there, but we get it. The capacity, always wrong with this application because it's really outdated. Thermal is 32 degrees, which it has cooled down considerably. Will be interesting to see what cooling's implemented. Sensors are all there, which is all good. Well, there's a whole bunch of them, actually. Cameras is 64 megapixels, 32 megapixels, but it doesn't say the other two. QuickShortcutMaker, though. Let me quickly go through this and see if there's anything that's worth opening up. I don't think there will be. There's a factory test by TechSun, so we'll try this. Oh, yeah, there you go. It's testing all of the functions of the phone. MiniScreen test. Oh, look at that. Oh, that's cute. That's adorable. Yep. Pass. Auxiliary camera test, but nothing happens. Interesting. IMEI settings just here, which you can clear the IMEIs and write your own if you want to. Pretty sure that's illegal. Don't do that. The mini screens by YFT, and we've already had a look at that. I'll blur the IP address down the bottom there just in case. But there's Rocket Man. We've got Saga Test, which is testing the storage. The storage is an SK Hynix chip. Secret codes are there. And with the secret codes, some of these do work, but the one that I wanted to check of the real ROM code has been disabled on this. And all of the hardware info with more camera info there as well. So if you want to have a look at them, feel free. I can't seem to find the actual MiniScreen application apart from the one that's already shown, but I've already shown what it can do, and I don't think I can do much more than what I've already shown with the MiniScreen. That's pretty much everything on the HaFury V1. I think I've tested everything that I need to test. Let me go into a bit of a professional conclusion where I'm going to have to read off a script because I don't really want to ramble the conclusion on. I want to have it a little bit more professional and some extra B-roll footage too. So let's jump to the conclusion. The HaFury V1 isn't a perfect budget phone by any means, but like any other device, there are positives and negatives with this. And I'll try not to be here for too long, as I've expressed most of this during the review, but I'll do a rundown of the most important points. Starting with pricing, I think $129 US for the asking price is reasonable enough considering you get the mini screen, even though you can't do too much with it. It's still cool having a screen on the back of a smartphone, and you also get the fashion case as well as the fancy unboxing experience. But is that really enough to make this a recommended phone? Not quite. If the fashion stuff was stripped away, this would be even cheaper. It is what it is. The build quality of the phone itself is what I'd expect to see for a budget device, and putting that standard case on is my recommendation. The fancy case may cause more troubles than it's worth if you have the strap and all that attached to it. The performance is fairly reasonable with the octa-core processor and 8GB of RAM. Fair enough, it's an outdated system on chip, but it's more than enough for a budget phone like this. Combined with the fairly stock Android experience, the phone does have its moments where it feels like it's a bit slow, but for the most part, it's snappy enough and holds up on its own. The screen is also, to me, fairly good on this. I do wish Cubot did combine the best of two worlds and put either an OLED panel or a high refresh rate LCD on this, but the 1080p display that we do have on this was decent enough during the review, but those bezels may be a bit of an eyesore for some folks. Again, the price of this reflects that. Battery does hold up fairly well in the V1, and while the 18-watt fast charging isn't, well, blazingly fast, at least you would get a decent day of usage before needing to give it a charge overnight. Dual loudspeakers aren't the clearest on this, but they are definitely an improvement over just having one bottom loudspeaker, so I am more than happy with that. Seeing a headphone jack on this would have been really great to see, but unfortunately didn't get one. It is what it is. Now the cameras are fine for this, I guess. The 64 megapixel camera can do some decent shots, but you really have to be steady during photos in order to get the best quality since there's no EIS here. I honestly don't see a difference between the standard 25 megapixel mode and the 64 megapixel mode, to me anyways. I imagine most people would just leave it on 25 megapixels and not even notice a difference. The macro and 0.3 megapixel light sensor are pretty much useless, and I would have liked to have seen a cheap ultra-wide camera just thrown onto this, but instead we get the 2 megapixel macro and 0.3 megapixel light sensor, just so then they were able to say we've got triple cameras on our phone. Videos with the rear camera also appear a bit flat, but they are good enough for this. The single microphone that's in this is a bit muffled with videos, but there's not much you can really do, apart from yelling a bit louder into the bottom part of the phone. The front camera is also acceptable for what it is, and even though you get 720p video on this, it will do on a phone at this price range. To get better quality selfies, that's where the mini screen comes into play, and yeah, it's cool having the mini screen, but the functionality is just so limited. You can change the watch face, you can see notifications, you can control music and do basic camera controls with it, and then that's it. You can't control video or have the LED on with the mini screen, which is a bit of a bummer, but hey, at least you can pull off a better looking selfie with it, so it's a positive. Between the Meet and the V1, I do like the Meet because of the 120Hz OLED, but the rest of it just did fall a bit flat, whereas the V1 I think has a better reach in the market due to the price and the gimmicks, as well as just overall being something a bit more easier to recommend over the Meet. And while the gimmicks may not be for everyone, the phone does make up for it by being a reasonable performer at $129 US, and I do hope Cubot can improve some areas of this phone, including the camera quality and mini screen functionality with some further updates, if they're going to be providing any further updates. I honestly recommend having a look at other options from Xiaomi, Oppo, Realme, etc. for other phones around the same price range before jumping on this. The phone market is very oversaturated and you have plenty of options to consider. It all just really depends on your budget and expectations from a phone in 2024, and the V1 does stand out as being that fashion phone with a screen on the back, but if you don't need the screen and fashion gimmicks, it might be best to consider going with a Poco or other cheaper alternative phone. That's the conclusion for the HaFury V1. And even though the phone's off, the screen's still on. Oh, it's off now. I like this phone, and it does have some positives for a budget device, and you know, the whole fashion thing is kind of justifiable for the price because it's got the mini screen on the back. It can have that gimmick of being a fashion phone and stuff, but the HaFury Mate is not as strong as what this is. But let's check out the innards of this and see what's going on. I'm pretty sure I don't need a heat gun to open up the back. Didn't use a heat gun. I was able to just open it up with just using some cardstock. But now I have to be extremely careful because I don't know where the flex ribbons are for the screen. And I don't think anyone else has taken this apart as of yet. So I'll just be somewhat gentle. Okay. I now have access to the innards. And we do have a metal bracket holding down the rear AMOLED panel. And that's a little OLED panel just there. It's a little tiny flex cable connecting to the motherboard, but that is definitely a watch display that they've put on here. You can see the NFC is just located beneath the cameras just there. The battery is just there, 4,350 milliamp hours, and I've got quite a lot of screws to take out to pull the frame off. So go ahead and take all these off. There's a lot of screws, but there we go. That is the back plastics there, and the metal volume button fell out, but the fingerprint sensor is also kind of just hanging there, just sort of just sits there. But I'll take that off. And now I'm getting a better understanding of this device. So the earpiece is definitely bigger than the HaFury Meet. It's at least twice the size in this one. But I'll just take off the bottom plastics, which look a little something like that. There's also some red goop on the back of the Type-C port, just in case any water gets in, I suppose. The loudspeaker is soldered to the bottom PCB there, and it does have some waterproof mesh, and we do have the coin style vibration motor, and we can also see the inner metal frame. Disconnecting the battery, we have some pull tabs on here, which makes it super easy to remove it if it needs to be recycled or replaced. There we go, bit of elbow grease, and there is the battery, which is the 4,350 milliamp hour battery. So taking the two cables off there for the display and the subboard. There's a antenna connection just there. There's one screw holding down the motherboard just at the side here, and then the whole motherboard can be removed like that with a huge glob of thermal paste just slapped on the back there. It's better than nothing, but we do have a metal frame that is helping to dissipate the heat. No heat sinks or copper cooling or anything like that, just thermal paste straight to the metal frame, which yes, this did get a bit toasty during the review, but it wasn't anything too concerning. And also we do have some light sensors, which are in the right spot, unlike the HaFury Meet where they're at the top for some reason. I still don't know why they're at the top. We can see the top earpiece just there, which as I said is about double the size of the one that was in the HaFury Meet. The front 32 megapixel camera is just there with a code on there, if you can see that. That is our little 32 megapixel camera. Not much to really see there, but what we do want to see is the rear cameras. So we've got the 64 megapixel one just here, and that's got A220 B2347, no optical image stabilization. That's a fairly standard sort of 64 megapixel camera there. And then we have, well, that disappeared. The 2 megapixel macro just there, and the, well, 0.3 megapixel light sensor. Even though it came up as 2 megapixels, that looks like the same one that was in the HaFury Meet. I won't pull this off this time around. I'm sure there's a tiny little sensor in there that does not a whole lot. There you go, that's the two little itty bitty cameras there. On the same flex ribbon too, by the way. This is also graphite tape that's over the top of some of the components, and there's also some information just there. Does that help me tell anything? Nah, all good. I'm not going to take the shielding off. It's not the easy shielding where I can just easily pop it off. And I don't exactly want to destroy this, so I'm pretty sure that's everything that's on this board. Overall, it was nothing too exciting, but it's always fun to tear these products down and see the inner workings of them. I will put this back together, and hopefully it still works. I think it will. I don't think I destroyed it, but it still works. Also, let's see what happens if I don't have the mini screen connected. I'm not expecting anything exciting to happen with the mini screen disconnected. I just want to see if it throws back an error or something. Oh, well, it's still there. Well, it thinks it's connected, but it's clearly not connected. What I wanted to see is if I connect the mini screen, does it work straight away? Or do I have to restart it? Just curious. Most likely we'll have to reboot the phone, but hey, you never know. It might just start working. Nah, nothing, so I'll restart it, and this should make it work. I haven't destroyed it. I don't think I've destroyed it. Oh no. Oh, I thought I destroyed it then. Nope, it's all fine. I didn't destroy it. Phew. Little heart attack then. Oh, the little gimmick still lives on, and I'll have to take all the adhesive off camera to properly reapply this, but the fact that it's still all working means that this has been a successful review. That is the complete in-depth review of the HaFury V1. I hope you have all enjoyed this one, because I've enjoyed having a look at this. It'll be interesting to hear what you folks have to say about this one, if you think this one's anything special, or if you think the whole gimmick with the screen and the fashion thing's acceptable for this. I don't know, let me know your thoughts of this one down below. A massive thank you to Cubot for sending this sample out to me for review. I really do appreciate it. I believe I've delivered an honest and upfront review for this product, and all opinions in this video were my own, and I wasn't paid by AliExpress or Cubot to say anything about this device. They just sent the sample out to me for review, and that is what I've done. And if you're interested in having a look at this, there's a link in the description below. It's not an affiliate link or anything like that, so if you just want to Google it and go have a look at it, that's fine. But if you want to jump onto AliExpress through that link, you can take a look at it and see its current price of 129 US dollars or 200 Australian dollars. And with that, that's it. You've made it to pretty much the end of the video. If you had to use timestamps to skip along through certain segments, that's completely fine. That's why they're there. These long sample reviews aren't really for everybody, but if you're hearing me say this, I think you've enjoyed watching this one. I do have another sample phone to review very soon, but apart from that, I'll be going back to my usual cheapo content and stuff. I don't know if a lot of you actually enjoy these sample reviews or not. It's just good looking at different items from different manufacturers instead of just Welcome all the time, you know, the same cheapo thing. So it's good to just expand a little bit. But otherwise, thank you so much for watching this one. I really do appreciate it, and I really do hope that I've covered absolutely everything that I can in this review. If I haven't, please let me know down in the comments below, and I'll be happy to try and answer any questions about this device that I can. Alright folks, enough of me rambling. Thank you so much for watching. Once again, I really do appreciate it, and as always, please take care, stay safe, be good people, and I'll see you all in the next one, which will be something. Plenty of things to do, little time to do it, but I'll do it anyways. I've also ordered a bunch of stuff off AliExpress as well, so I expect to see that soon. Until the next one, take care of yourself, keep being awesome, and I'll see you all soon. If you like this content, feel free to leave a like or a dislike if you didn't. Thanks heaps for watching, and I'll catch you all in the next video. Oh lol. Whee! Oh, two old bonus, nice.